Hi everyone, welcome back to Alice on the Giant Bookshelf. Today's video is my TBR for November and I'm really excited because it's Nonfiction November. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice and I have way too many books, and today we're going to be talking about the way too many non-fiction books that I may attempt to read in November, and other things too. In November on BookTube, it is traditionally Nonfiction November, and this lovely event is hosted by a book olive. I will link all the details in the description box down below, but the idea of this is simply to read more non-fiction than you normally would. And looking at my non-fiction stats from this year, they are dreadful, so I actually need Nonfiction November to get me reading some actual non-fiction. So I'm hoping to make a good dent in non-fiction that I have on my shelves. So far this year I have only actually read 7 non-fiction books, which is really bad because I've read over 100 books in total, and 2 of those non-fiction books were under 100 pages, so I've really not been doing well with non-fiction. As it is November and I haven't been doing too well with reducing my giant TBR, I do need to get cracking and reading lots of the books that are actually on my shelves. So I'm going to show you a selection of what I have available that I could read for Nonfiction November, and I'm also going to talk a bit about what kind of fiction I will probably read this month to balance my non-fiction reading, because I do like a variety and there's no way I will just stick to reading non-fiction for a whole month. And I do have a couple of new books to show as well, because my mum has very kindly bought me some book presents recently, and most of them there is a reason why I will probably read them in November. First of all, let's talk about Nonfiction November options, and after that I'll talk about the other books that I am likely to read in the month of November, or might. A book olive sets 4 prompts every year for Nonfiction November, and these are one-word prompts that you can try and twist to match what you want to read, or you can use them to help you choose. So those 4 words this year are record, element, border and secret. So we'll look at what books I have and see if I can tenuously link them to those 4 prompts. So the first book that I definitely want to get to was a new purchase in October. I bought this on my trip to Oxford, and surprise surprise, it is a book about books and reading, and it's The Reading Life by C.S. Lewis, and I believe this is all about reading and is a collection of essays. So I'm hoping to get to this one, which is quite short. I think I'm going to go with the prompt element for this one because it's called The Reading Life and reading is a big element of my life. So yeah, tenuous. And the second book that I definitely hope very much to get to in Nonfiction November is a brand new one that my mum got me the other day. Haven't yet shown it on the channel, and that is Poirot, the Greatest Detective in the World by Mark Aldridge. And this is basically an account of Poirot, and it goes through in order from the different decades of Poirot. So we have chapter 1, the 1920s, and it goes through the books in order that they were published. So although this is a very chunky one, it's one that I really am looking forward to reading, and it also does have frequent pictures, so yes, I hope to get to this in November. Very good timing by my mum for buying this, so thanks mum. The other non-fiction that I have that relates to Agatha Christie, which I've been meaning to get to for a long time, is Murder Isn't Easy, The Forensics of Agatha Christie, and this is by Carla Valentine, and it's one that I got for Christmas and I would really like to get to it. Oh, I was going to say for Poirot, I thought this would fit the prompt record because it is a record of all the Poirot books, and this one I think would fit the prompt secret because it talks about the secrets of the forensics of Agatha Christie. So yeah, we'll say it's that. Also on my pile, these are the books I'm less likely to get to, but it would be good to clear some of these off my shelf because I've had them for a very long time. And the first one is the one I've had for the longest, which was on my These Books Will Self-Destruct in 12 months. I have about 2 more months left to read this book, and that's My Bookie Work by Russell Brand. This is the only autobiography I have on this selection for November. And I would also probably put this into record because it's the record of somebody's life, or maybe secret because I think Russell Brand will reveal a few secrets. Not too sure about reading this, but I am going to definitely aim to give it a try, and if I don't like it, unhaul it, because I've been holding on to this book for far too long, and it was a book that I just picked up when my mum was getting rid of it. I also have 2 books that I bought during, I don't know if I bought both. I bought one of these, and I think the other one I either bought or my mum gave me. They both date back from the time I was doing my PGCE, learning to be a teacher, and I don't know really how I would classify these into a prompt for Nonfiction November, so if you have any wise ideas of how I make these fit the 4 prompts, then let me know in the comments. And we have The Story of Childhood Growing Up in Modern Britain by Libby Brooks, and I have a bookmark in this. Apparently I've already read 104 pages, but I think I was reading it during my PGCE. There's not a lot of time on PGCE for reading, so it was put down again and it was never picked back up, so that's quite bad. Again, this is a long-serving book on the TBR. If you think I should read any of these and prioritise them, let me know that in the comments as well. My other one related to childhood is called Toxic Childhood: How the Modern World is Damaging Our Children and What We Can Do About It by Sue Palmer. This is all about like what's happening to children, why do children suffer now from more mental health problems and more behavioural difficulties than perhaps was known about in the past. This is from 2006, so it might be a tiny bit dated by now, but I think still possibly worth a read. In it, Sue Palmer talks about wide-ranging research on what is toxic in the lives of children growing up today. So yeah, I think I probably would have enjoyed this more while I was teaching, and it might have been more useful to me, but I never did read it, so probably if I don't read this in November, I might actually let go of this one. But we will see. I will give it a try, maybe. Right, the next 3 I actually would really like to read. I've definitely started this book before as well, but I've taken the bookmark out, so I don't know how far I got. And this is Stuff I've Been Reading by Nick Hornby, another book about books. Follows on from The Complete Polysyllabic Spree by Nick Hornby, which I've already read. And in this, it has a sort of format. It's laid out in months. And Nick Hornby always lists this used to really appeal to me, and I actually started doing it myself. He always lists books bought, books read, and you can see whether he actually read the same ones that he bought in the month, and then he talks about that month of reading. So I really like that format, really enjoyed the Polysyllabic Spree, and so I've been meaning to get to stuff I've been reading for a very long time. I think I also got this from my mum after she'd read it, and the other 2 are books that I got from my birthday, so I'm far more drawn to these 2 books because they are books I really wanted. And one is brand new from this year, and that is Write It All Down: How to Put Your Life on the Page by Kathy Rensenbrink. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you will know that I absolutely loved the book Dear Reader last year. In fact, it was my top book of the year. And I haven't read any other Kathy Rensenbrink books, but I really want to. I also really enjoy writing, and I just never make time for writing anymore. So I think Write It All Down, it will be a really good book. My mum bought this for me when it was brand new out earlier this year and gave it to me for my birthday. And it has just the most gorgeous end papers of any book I own. So another reason to get to it. So I hope I will get a chance to read that one. And I think I would probably class that one in record as well, because as in using the word record to say record, as in write it all down, record it all. And the Nick Hornby book I think would be good for record as well, because it's a record of his reading. And the last non-fiction book that I have dug off my shelves for November was a lovely birthday present as well from the wonderful Ange at Ange's Book Chatter. And Ange sent me this gorgeous book, The Bookshop Book by Jen Campbell. I've wanted to read this ever since starting on BookTube. In fact, just before I started on BookTube, Jen Campbell's channel was the first channel that I discovered that led me down the rabbit hole of BookTube. And the reason I started watching Jen Campbell's channel was because I found her video when I was looking for videos about writing, and quickly realised that she was actually the author of one of the funniest books I have read, which is Weird Things Customers Say in Bookshops, which is on my shelf somewhere. I think it's up here. Such a funny book. Highly, highly recommend it if you need a laugh and you love the idea of what people might be overheard saying in bookshops. It is hilarious. The fact that I'd found the author of that was on YouTube talking about books just led me down the BookTube rabbit hole, and I ended up with a BookTube channel. So I have a lot to thank Jen Campbell for, and I cannot wait to read more of her books. I've already read her book this year, The Sister Who Ate Her Brothers. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But this is a non-fiction one, the Bookshop Book. I would classify this as being record as well, but it also has a bookshelf border. So I'm going to use this one for the border prompt, because I don't think I have anything else for that, unless we classify this as a border as well around the edge. So a couple of options maybe for border. This, I believe, is all about wonderful, wonderful bookshops. And if you've been watching my channel lately, you'll know I have been getting out a bit more, going and exploring bookshops in different parts of the UK. So I would really, really love to find out about bookshops even further afield. And I know I will be in good hands with Jen Campbell. She's written wonderful books before. So the Bookshop Book is my last choice for my pile of possibilities, if you will, for Nonfiction November. That is 9 books. I'm highly unlikely to read 9 non-fiction books in November, but I'm going to set myself a goal of reading 4, and if they don't exactly work out one for each of the prompts, I'm not going to mind too much, but 4 will significantly help my non-fiction statistics for this year. If I can read more than 4, because some of them are quite short, then I will try. And with the Russell Brand and the Toxic Childhood, maybe even The Story of Childhood, I might do a bit of a try chapter with those unofficially by trying them to see which one I would like to read, and maybe unhaul some, we will see. That's Nonfiction November. Of course, there are other plans that I want to do in November, because it's me. So one thing that I haven't joined in with for a few months and would really, really like to get back to is Christie Fest. And Christie Fest is run by the lovely Julie and Lil, and I will link both of their channels in the description down below. Yeah, Christie Fest reads one Agatha Christie book per month, and I haven't been joining in for a couple of months because there's been a couple of books I really didn't want to reread at this time, and also some that I did want to reread but I just didn't have time for rereading. I'm not certain that I have got time for rereading in November, but I do really want to reread the Agatha Christie book that they have chosen for November, which I only have in my lovely Falling Apart 1940s omnibus, which is, yeah, very worse for wear, but I got this for 20 pence from a library book sale. Despite its age, I definitely still love this book. Probably even if I get all 4 in separate editions, I wouldn't get rid of this book. And the final book in this is Crooked House, one of Agatha Christie's standalones. And that is the choice for Nonfiction November this month. I'm hoping to get time to read it in the first week of the month. It's just this bit here. It's a really good Agatha Christie. Very, very good. And I definitely know the solution to Crooked House. So I will probably join in Christie Fest regardless of whether I reread this or not. Secondly, I will be joining in, as I have for most of the year, the Killer Reads Thriller Month Book Club, which is hosted by the wonderful AJ over at AJ Dunn Reads and Writes. And this book club reads one of the 60 greatest thrillers of all time, as listed by Penguin each month. This month it's going to be a book that I haven't heard of, and it's called Dead Letters by Kate Dolan Leach, and I'll try and get a picture up here on the screen because I have been listening to a lot of these on audiobook to avoid buying them and avoid going to the library. But unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be an audiobook for Dead Letters by Kate Dolan Leach, so I am going to go and look for it at the library tomorrow. Fingers crossed for that. And because I don't have a library copy, I don't know anything about this book, which is quite exciting with a thriller. I'm sure I will tell you about that later in the month when I have read it. And the third plan from ongoing plans this year is to continue with the Six Tudor Queens read-along. In November, the Six Tudor Queens read-along will be going on to book 4, Anne of Cleves. Six Tudor Queens is being hosted by Emily from Novell Novels and Gemma from Gemma Books. It's really getting more exciting to me because I really enjoyed Jane Seymour, where I hadn't really enjoyed the Anne Boleyn book, and I don't know anything about Anne of Cleves, so I'm quite excited to get to Anne of Cleves, and that will be an audiobook listen as well. And to tie in with Anne of Cleves, my mum has found me a book in a charity shop that relates to Anne of Cleves indirectly, and that is Amenable Women by Mavis Cheek. I had never heard of this book until my mum gave it to me, but this is apparently about a lady who's in her 50s when her husband dies in a bizarre accident. With her new freedom, she decides to finish the history of their village that he was writing. She reads a reference to Anne of Cleves, which captures her imagination and causes her to delve more deeply into the life of Henry VIII's fourth wife. This is a bit that sounds utterly bizarre. It says, meanwhile, in the Louvre, Holbein's portrait of Anne of Cleves senses the tug of a connection, and she begins to tell the story of the injustices she suffered and just how she survived her marriage. Really, really bizarre sounding book, but I thought I would definitely give this a try alongside Alison Weir's Anne of Cleves, because why not? We love a good book pairing. Yes, that is a new acquisition as well. My mum said she would like to reread that, so that will be going back to her after I've read it, so I'm not going to add it to the giant TBR at this stage, hopefully. And the biggest fiction plan I have in the month of November is something I'm so excited about, which is my brand new book club that I'm running with Gemma at Gemma Books and Jack at Spread Bookjoy, and we're going to be reading FOMO books. It's the Fear of Missing Out book club, and we fear that we have missed out on I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. If you would like to read this, please do follow the link in the description down below. There is an invite to Discord to join our book club and read this with us in the month of November. And the read will be carrying on into December, and later in December we will let you know about a chat we will have about it live on YouTube at the end of the month here on my channel. We've got a lovely group already building for the book club. I hope as many of you as possible will join us to read or reread I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. I can't wait to read this. I've borrowed it from my mum. I Capture the Castle is my biggest fiction plan of November. Editing Alice here. I've just got to the end of filming another video and realised that I still managed to forget a book, even though there are so many books on this TBR. But I definitely am going to read this one. Honestly, I am. So this is for the Out of the Coffin read-along, hosted by Ange at Ange's Book Chatter and Amy at BookTube with Amy. And they are reading the Charlaine Harris's Southern Vampires series, also known as the Sookie Stackhouse series. I finally joined in with it last month. I read book 11, and the book that is being read in November is book number 12, Deadlocked by Charlaine Harris. And I've never read this one, so I'm very, very excited for this, and I cannot believe I managed to leave it off the TBR. After all of the things that Sookie got up to last month, I am most definitely going to be straight back into the roller coaster ride that is the life of Sookie Stackhouse by reading this book in November with that lovely read along. And finally, if I have any other time, So I'm going to try and read 4 Nonfiction November books. I think I've mentioned at least 4 plans that are not Nonfiction November, so that's 8 books. If I have time around those 8 books, I will be hopefully exclusively reading from the giant bookshelf, because there is a limited amount of time left to get that giant bookshelf down to 150 unread books. That was my goal for the year. It's not been going well. I think it's probably still sitting around the 180 mark, because for all the books that I've read this month, I seem to have acquired new books again. So yeah, I definitely, if I get time, will be reading something out of my tin of my oldest books. So the TBR tin has not been much used yet, because I haven't had much time to read some of these old books, but this month, you'll find out more in my wrap up, but this month I did manage to get to some older books from in here, which I need to remove. Just in case, let's draw out one book that I will attempt to read in November if I get any other time. And if I don't read this one, it will definitely be one of the books off my These Books Will Self-Destruct in 12 months, because we're running out of time on those. Let's close my eyes. They're not very well folded. The book I have picked is If Nobody Speaks of Remarkable Things. I will try and read this in the month of November. That's by John McGregor, and that is on my TBR shelf down here somewhere. Anyway, those are all of my options for November. I doubt I will get through all of them, but these are just possibilities for November, and I hope you will let me know in the comments down below if you saw anything in this video that you think I should prioritise reading, if you are reading any of these books, and let me know in the comments as well whether you are going to be joining in with reading the older children's classic, I Capture the Castle. If you've enjoyed this video today, please do give it a like. Please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. I hope very much to see you all again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.